Well, hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Getting ready to record Mike in the Midwest. We're going to talk about some of the fun stuff I got to do with my dad when he worked in radio here in St. Louis and how crazy radio was in the 90s. It was wild. All right, let's do it. Here we go. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Mike in the Midwest, a mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. This is Mike Rallman, host of The Big Show, which is known as the Be Our Guest podcast with co-hosts Pam, Ricky, and Scott. Hope you're enjoying the podcast this week. I'm recording episode 126 here of Mike in the Midwest on Tuesday, December, what is today? The 6th, 2022. In case you're listening to the show down the road, you'll have some context as to where we're coming from. Hope you're having a great holiday season here as we approach Christmas and Hanukkah and all the great holidays, New Year's, and more importantly for me, bowl season. Yes, my Mizzou Tigers are in a bowl this year by the skin of their teeth, 6-6, good enough to make a bowl game nowadays. And we have been selected for the Gasparilla Bowl. And you might say, what is a Gasparilla? It is named after a pirate down in the Treasure Coast of Florida. I did a little research, but the most important thing is the bowl game is in Florida instead of a place like Memphis, Tennessee, or Shreveport, Louisiana, or Birmingham, Alabama. No offense to any of those places. I've gone to Memphis for a bowl game. I've gone to Shreveport for a bowl game. I've gone to those places and they're fine. But Tampa, Florida, playing at Raymond James Stadium where the Tampa Bay Bucks play, much better destination in mid-December. So shout out to our Missouri Tigers, headed down on December 23rd to play the Wake Forest Demon Deacons in the Gasparilla Bowl. I don't know if we're going to make this one. We may. The timing on this one's rough, though. It's December 23rd. It's 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And we do Christmas big here. We go to my in-laws' house out in a town called Moscow Mills out in the country, up in Lincoln County, Missouri, which is about 45 minutes from here. And it's perfect, right? I love getting together with my wife's family for Christmas Eve. I'm a very traditional guy. I don't want to give that up. So if we went to the Gasparilla Bowl, we'd have to kind of fly down to Tampa on the 23rd, like in the morning, go straight to the stadium, watch the football game, probably stay the night because the game wouldn't be over till like 10:30 or 11. Get up super early on Christmas Eve, fly home on Christmas Eve. I don't know if I want to give up like Christmas Eve to be in an airplane and be in an airport. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day are too special to me traditionally. So I don't know. We may just tune that one in on TV, even though I'd love to be there to support my Missouri Tigers. And it's going to be a black and gold fest because that's the colors for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. But who knows? We'll talk about it. But I see us staying home on this one. So excited for that. But hope you're doing well this holiday season. Hope you have your Christmas lights up on the house. I hope you have the decorations up. Hope the Christmas cookies are coming along well. We've only had one batch. We've had those green wreaths that I tore up on my birthday. Thank goodness for that, that we haven't had too many Christmas cookies yet because I destroy those things. Marathon weekend for all of us runners that are headed down in January. Man, that is a month away. A month from now, we'll be almost done with the entire thing. Just about an hour ago before I went live, the email came out from Run Disney for Marathon Weekend runners telling us about the virtual queue, making sure that you sign your waiver digitally and all that stuff so you know it's coming. Corral placements will be happening soon. Let me just tell you, if you haven't started your training for Marathon Weekend, forget it. It's too late. But we're going to all be having a good time. We're going to have some meetups for the Be Our Guest podcast down there. So if you want to say hi to Scott or myself while we're there, I don't know if Pam will be there. She may drop in. I don't think Ricky's going to be there because she is with child, but she's busy. But yeah, we'll definitely have some meetups. We have the putt-putt. We're going to play over at Fantasia Gardens. We're going to have a lizard putt-putt meetup, and we're going to have prizes and all that stuff on that Wednesday. So yeah, let us know. And we'd love to say hi to you. We're going to do some dinners. We're going to have a good time. So I can't wait to see everybody. I'll be there from Wednesday morning till Monday evening. So good long time there. I'm going down solo. I'll be hanging with Scott mostly. And my time is super free except for the races. So would love to say hi and hang out and have, a Coke Zero with you, or have, a meal, and go to ABC Commissary and destroy a buffalo chicken grilled cheese with you. Cause if you've never had one, you're missing out. It's the best thing in the world. But yeah, we're gonna have a good time. So marathon weekend around the corner. Here we are in the greatest time of the year, because I used to always get sad because I'm a huge Christmas person. I used to get really sad when Christmas was over, because Christmas, then you get New Year's, which New Year's Eve is kind of fun. You get to watch a lot of football, and you got the New Year's Eve shows and stuff and all that. But then once the Rose Bowl happens, the Rose Bowl parade, once that all starts happening and everybody goes back to school, because I used to be a teacher, you had to go back to school. My wife goes back to school. My kids go back to school. It gets kind of depressing. But at least with Marathon Weekend, it extends it out one more week. Like, I have one more week of fun stuff to look forward to. Then after Marathon Weekend, it's kind of blech, it's bad. So we'll make it out. We'll have a good time. So hope you're having a great holiday season. Hope you're getting out in your community, seeing the lights, seeing Santa Claus, listening to all the Christmas music on holiday traditions, and Holly and your local radio station, which I'm sure you have about 5 radio stations that have turned over to 24/7 Christmas and Hanukkah, and just holiday classics for you. Um, just whatever it is. I hope you're having a great holiday season. I say Christmas a lot because that's what we celebrate here, but I have friends and dear friends that I don't even consider friends. I consider them family, that celebrate Hanukkah and other celebrations. And I never want to slight you. So whatever you celebrate in your heart and with your family and in your household, I hope that that celebration is just wonderful for you this year. We all need to celebrate. We all need to embrace what we believe and enjoy this time of the year. Whatever your celebration is, hope it's the best ever for you. Okay, so speaking of celebrations, if you were to go to YouTube and check out the VR Guest podcast on YouTube, you can see the video as I record these shows, and you will see that the Viking helmet is prominently still displayed on the shelf here in the newly uh, christened Be Our Guest Podcast Studios. And that is because, and you've heard this already, but you're hearing it here first, unless you tune into the live Sunday night show. Our Francis Howell Vikings did complete the mission that I've been talking about this entire fall, especially here on Mike in the Midwest. I said our high school football team was pretty good this year. I said, I had a good feeling. It's like the Black Eyed Peas song, I Have a Feeling. Back in August, I had a feeling this team had the potential to do something this year. And as we attended our Friday Night Lights games, we go up to what we call the H. That's our high school. We're Francis Howell, and we call the high school the H. It's kind of out in the country. Whenever we go to the H on a Friday night to watch the games, or we travel to the opposing games, we go to Fort Zumwalt schools, we go to Holt, we go to Timberland, we'd go up to Troy to their school. We travel well. We go to all the away games in the surrounding counties, the surrounding districts. And it really is a community thing. But as our team just kept winning, we won. We knew we had something special cooking this year with our Francis Howell Vikings. And as you know, for Wine and Dine Race weekend back in the beginning of November, that was the first weekend that our Howell Viking football team played in the playoffs. We had to bye the first round because we were undefeated this regular season. So we didn't have to play in the first round. But Wine and Dine Race weekend on that Friday was our first playoff game. So I was really kind of in a bind. Like, do I go run down at Wine and Dine? Because I'd registered, and I was registered for the challenge. My knee was kind of tore up, but I could have made it probably through the miles, not beautifully. And that's how it's going to be for marathon too. It's going to be ugly, but I think I can probably make it. Sunday is going to be a lot sketchy, but we'll see. But anyway, I decided I wanted to stay home because I didn't want to miss any of this team's games. This is something special. You don't get a team like this every year. So I stayed home. We ended up winning that first playoff game like 52-7 or something. It was a blowout. Well, anyway, we completed the mission, and I say we, but because it's our community team, I wasn't a part of the team. But we did make it to the state finals, which was played this past Friday night. We played the game at Mizzou, which is where we've been going. We're season ticket holders for the Missouri Tigers. And it's about 2 hours from where we live here in St. Peter's, 2 hours west down Interstate 70. And we've been taking Mallory there since she was 8 months old. And we've sat on the hill, and she's, since she was a baby, we've been buying her Mizzou cheerleader uniforms that we dress her up in as a baby. And I have pictures. I'll have to post some, of her at the Mizzou games and these little onesies that are Mizzou Tiger cheerleader onesies, and then little cheerleader uniforms. And as she got older, more authentic looking cheerleader uniforms and so forth. We've grown up in that stadium. And I will say that, again, as a proud dad moment, getting to see your daughter cheerlead on the field at your college's stadium, the stadium that holds 70,000 people, even though, I mean, our town brought 10,000 fans, and our town's not large. We had 10,000 fans on our side for a high school game. And it was really incredible to get to see Mallory cheer for our high school team, which really kind of took apart the opposing team. We ended up winning 49-21. It was 35-7 at half, and we had it made. But it was just a special season, 14-0, undefeated season. First time our high school had ever won a state championship. So we are just riding on cloud nine still here in Weldon Spring, Missouri, in St. Peter's. It's an amazing thing. We're so proud of our team. We're so proud of our community. It's just really cool to drive around our town and see on the marquees of the Dairy Queen or of the Marmino's Meat Market or the pizza joints or the ice cream, other ice cream places, congratulations, Vikings, and we're proud of you. It's very cool. It's like, I don't know. Again, this is Mike in the Midwest, and I think we kind of have an imposter syndrome sometimes when you're in flyover country, because you hear that your whole life, right? You hear people say, where you live is flyover country. People from New York and Los Angeles and Chicago and, Florida and Texas, we just fly over where you're from, and it's like, well, we're good at some stuff. We're good at baseball. We have the Cardinals, but it was really cool to see that our high school team, and I know it's, we didn't like win the national championship or anything. We were, our little pocket of Missouri was the best in our division of football for this year. So we're really proud of those kids, and we're proud that we got together as a community and did something special. And we'll try it again next year, but it was a really cool experience. We actually stayed the night. We had some of Mallory's cheerleader friends. We had like 6 of them. After the game, we stayed the night at the nice hotel where the SEC officials stay when they referee the Mizzou football games. It's a hotel called Stony Creek. It's a 3-story little hotel, but it's like a lodge. It reminds us exactly of Wilderness Lodge at Walt Disney World. And so, it's got fireplaces and little nooks and crannies and a nice indoor pool. And so we stayed there and kind of, took it easy the next morning, had a nice hotel breakfast and drove home. It was a fun weekend. And I'm glad we got to do that. Now, here's the thing. Paige comes home this weekend because my nephew gets married on Saturday, because she's obviously up in Chicago working with the University of Illinois Chicago Flames women's basketball team, where she's the director of basketball operations. By the way, that team, again, proud dad moment, that team won 3 games last year. They've started the season 8-1. They're 8-1. They just beat the Cincinnati Bearcats on their home court Sunday. That's a bigger school. They got invited to go play them because Cincinnati thought they would beat them. They went in and beat them on their own court. So I'm super proud of Paige too. But anyway, I'm going to give Paige a hard time when she gets home, because when I was in high school, my Hazelwood Central Hawks, we won state in football. When Pam was in high school, her Hazelwood East Spartans won state in football. When Mallory now was in high school, her Francis Hall Vikings won state in football. But Paige, nope. Her Hazelwood West Wildcats were terrible at football. So she's the only one that didn't get a state championship in football in her high school career. But we'll joke about that. Also, she has not seen the new Be Our Guest podcast studios, which used to be where her bedroom was. So I can't wait to see her reaction to that. I mean, she took all of her stuff, so it was empty, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes when she walks in and sees, wow, my bedroom is really a podcast studio now. So that'll be kind of interesting as well. But I hope that you have had moments like this in your town, like civic pride moments. And again, we have a very modest home, and we moved here in 2019, and we specifically moved so that Mallory could get a good education in a great school district. We didn't move because of the football team. We moved because of the overall opportunities, the academic, because it's a great academic school, high school. but it's also a great school for athletes, for folks that are, in extracurriculars, band, theater. They have so many great programs, robotics. They even have an esports team they won state, which I didn't even know esports was a competitive thing, but it is because they announced it at the football thing. They have a lot of opportunities for kids to excel in things other than academics, but it's a very academically challenging school. So that's why we bought a modest house in a great school pocket, where there's a great public high school for her to attend. Now, here's what we're going to get into the main topic in just a second, but here's again, I love the feedback. What about your town? Do you live in a small town? Do you live in a great big metro area? Where do you listen? Do you listen outside the United States? If you had a moment like this in your town where you feel great pride for where you live, did something special happen today? A kid from your town do something special? Did you win a state title in basketball or wrestling or baseball? Or, did your band win the best band in the state? Did you have something like this? Because I mean, my heart was swelling on Friday night that yes, we are the Francis Hall Vikings. Yes, that is where I live. That's us. It was really, really cool. I mean, it was special. We'll have that forever. And I was so happy for the kids, like the cheerleaders, the coach, even the coaches, the players, like they have that forever. And it's awesome. So really proud moment here. So thanks for letting me ramble for 10 minutes about that. So let me know about your town. Like, what do you have? Where's your civic pride moment? Because that was a good one here. And it was very cool. So let's hit the feedback from last week. Last week, I kind of talked about how I got this new podcast studio for my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and how, you always used to want something like a PlayStation or, an iPhone or something cool for your birthday. And for my birthday, I got a room, a chair, and a pair of warm boots. And it was perfect. And it made me feel so loved by my family. They were the perfect gifts. They could have been better. I talked about that. So here's the feedback from last week's show. Dennis says, from down in Texas, I really loved hearing about the thoughtful gifts you received from your girls for your birthday. Yes, things like trips and cruises are fun, but I find as I get older, I appreciate the really thoughtful gifts just as much. A few years ago, my wife surprised me hiring an interior decorator and then redecorating a spare bedroom upstairs for Christmas. They installed shelves, which gave me plenty of room to display my Star Wars collection, books, and sports memorabilia. I now record my podcast out of that room. I can't tell you what I receive for Christmas every year, but I will never forget the shelves and what my wife did with what is now my office. Dennis, our wives are almost identical there. And I'm telling you what, you give a man a room where they can display their Mickey ears or their Star Wars memorabilia or sports stuff, and you have a happy guy. Dennis, we are living the good life, my man. This is why Dennis and I just get along well. We're kindred souls. Dennis, thanks for sharing. Your wife is awesome. That is exactly right. It is the thoughtful thing. It is so special. And that is so, thank you for sharing. That is so cool. Michael says, sorry to be slow with some comments on past shows. First, we have two high schools out of Lehigh, Utah, that has a population of about 70,000. On November 18th, Sky Ridge High School played in the 6A title football game, and Lehigh High School played in the 5A title game. Both teams won. Lehigh in a triple overtime game. Our paper dubbed Title Town. Okay, a triple overtime game, I would be dead. I would have a heart attack before that was over. Thank God our game was 35-7 at half, because we got to relax. Like that was the greatest thing ever. I could not have handled a triple overtime state title game. Oh my gosh, Michael, I hope you're still with us. He continues, as far as Happy Meal toys, my family, okay, it's really me, he says, is kind of obsessed. For example, we collected all 100 of the 2001 100 Years of Magic toys, all 50 of the Walt Disney World 50 Years toys, 100 of the 101 out of 102 Dalmatian toys, all the Marvel Infinity Wars, Endgame, Eternals, Guardians of the Galaxies, and Black Panther toys, and plenty of others. Also, got all the Phantom Menace toys in 1999, but those were not McDonald's. Often I have to go to eBay to complete a set. I am an obsessive completist. Must be a disease I'm surprised that my wife puts up with. Michael out in Lehigh, Utah, a 2023 BOGP Utah or Cruiser. Mike, we got to talk on the cruise. That is awesome. I got to see pictures because if I could get away with this, I would have every Happy Meal toy. My wife just hates when I collect stuff like that, and I love it. And I have some stuff, but as soon as I start getting enough, like she gets a little fidgety. We'll talk about it on the cruise. Maybe I can get this done. I got to see pictures though, because I want to see this stuff. And I love Happy Meal toys. I just think there's something about the aesthetic of them. Doesn't matter really what the promotion is, just super cool. And we're going to be able to talk high school football. Oh, I can't wait for the cruise because it's the time we get to sit down and just catch up and get to know each other and talk about this stuff. This is where you get to make really lifelong friends, Michael. So I can't wait to be on the Wish with you, and it's going to be fun. Trisha joining us from up in Wisconsin, who has an elf in her house raising all kinds of havoc every day on social media. It's awesome. She says, my brain thinks I'm 20. My body is rapidly approaching 40. And that became very clear when I broke my foot this year. Side note, I've been cleared to slowly increase activity this week. Still no running, but at least it's progress. Some of the best gifts I've gotten recently were Star Wars Lego. Additionally, my in-laws gave me the holiday set every year. Around Christmas time, I set those out in a Christmas Lego village. I like that. It incorporates Star Wars. For example, I replaced Santa's reindeer with a Hoth snowspeeder. And in another scene, a stormtrooper is snowmobiling. That's all. You know what? Okay, Dennis, there you go. You can put that on your shelf. That's perfect. Trisha says, hot tip. My husband is so hard to buy gifts for. So I have a running notes page saved to my phone. Anytime he makes a comment about something, I jot it down in my notes. Okay, I'm stealing that totally because my wife is the hardest person. I mentioned this, I think, last week. Most impossible person in the world to buy for. She doesn't have a ton of hobbies. Like I have a million hobbies, and I have a lot of things that I enjoy: Star Wars, running, podcasting, Apple stuff. Like I'm super easy, like accessories. She's just like, I don't need anything all the time, all the time. She's happy with anything, which makes it hard to buy anything special. So Trisha, thanks for that tip. And yeah, I gotta see that too. Your Star Wars Christmas village. I love that. That is perfect. And my good buddy, my brother from another mother from down in South Carolina, whose Clemson Tigers are taking on the Tennessee Volunteers in the Orange Bowl, I believe down in Miami. Mike Bankhead, the captain of the BOGP Lizards, says some of my best gifts don't have a big dollar value associated with them. An example for my grandson, Pierce. I'm a casual hunter and would take Pierce with me when he was younger. Pierce was famous for wanting everyone to open his gifts to them before he opened his own. One Christmas, he was dying for me to open this one gift. As I often did, I kept aggravating him by skipping over it. He was so frustrated that I wouldn't open it. When I finally opened it, it was a mosquito head net for camping. He was so excited that he had found something for Pawpaw. Bottom line, 20 years later, still have that head net in my sock drawer. Have no idea what else I got that year, but that $5 head net means the world to me. Mike knows exactly what to say, and Mike has the best stories because that is exactly what Christmas and what family and what love is all about. That is it. That is exactly it. It's the thought, it's the excitement, it's the love, right? I'm sitting in love in this room. They painted this room. They cleaned up this room so I could have a space to be able to do something I enjoy. It's love around us. And all you got to do is look. Thanks, Mike, for sharing that. I love that. That's so cool. Go Clemson. All right. So today's topic, speaking of love, I love the times I got to spend with my dad back in the 90s. And I was thinking about this because Ricky brings up she brings up something this week on one of the shows. I don't know if it's Wednesdays or Fridays, but you'll hear it. Where she mentions that she met Brian, her husband, at a country line dancing bar. And so, of course, I don't know where you're from. Probably this was a national kind of phenomenon. But here in St. Louis, in Missouri, in the mid 90s and the early 90s, like there were country line dancing bars everywhere. Like when Brooks and Dunn and Garth Brooks and Chattahoochee, Alan Jackson, all that music was really, really hot. It was kind of crossing over to the mainstream. There were line dancing bars everywhere. And we had gigantic ones. I mean, the size of like Costco's and Sam's. They were line dancing bars. And so she mentioned that she met her husband in one of those places, and it brought up and I mentioned something like, was it called A Little Bit of Texas? Was it called Cactus Moon? Because those were the 2 that were by us. And she mentioned that it was called Wild Country, which was over in Illinois across the river from St. Louis. And then we got to talking about my dad because my dad worked for a group of radio stations. In one of those radio stations was the country station WIL. And they did on Saturday nights after the news on Saturday night, they had a show. It was it was from something like Saturday Nights Live from Wild Country. And you would just watch these people country line dance for like 45 minutes on Channel 4. And my dad was always, well, not always, but sometimes the DJ for that show. And so you would see my dad playing, whatever music, and these people be out there doing the 2-step, Texas 2-step, or the Chattahoochee, or, the TROUBLE by Travis Tritt, whatever. And it was just so fun to watch. It was just one of those things like I would watch it because I'd be working on a Saturday night. Either I'd be DJing, because a lot of times I was DJing a wedding reception, and I'd just be getting home, and I'd have Taco Bell or something, like fourth meal, because it's after work on a Saturday night. You're just hungry. Nothing's on TV back then. You'd flip on after the news, and there it is. Because it was recorded. It wasn't live. It was recorded like on a Wednesday night, and they'd play it on Saturday nights. And there's my dad playing the music and the people are dancing. It was funny. Now, I thought I would tell some more stories about my dad. So my dad, when I was growing up, my dad was a cement mason, which means he worked for the union, just like my grandpa. They were, they did manual labor. They put in concrete. So they worked for a company where they would put in basement floors, driveways, uh, patios on the back of houses, front porches, sidewalks. They did commercial stuff too, like businesses that, they did all kinds of, just wherever you needed concrete, that's what they did. Well, my dad, I think my dad did that job because obviously he got into the union. It was a pretty good job. He didn't go to college. He did it right out of high school, in the early 70s, because my grandpa did that job, and he worked for the same company as my grandpa. So, but he didn't really like doing the physical labor, but I think he just did it to raise the family because it was a good job. It was a good paying job with good benefits. But when I was in high school and actually middle school, he started taking night classes at a place called Broadcast Center, which was a trade school where you could learn to become a radio broadcaster, and you could actually work on TV skills. And it was taught by folks in St. Louis that were radio DJs or TV anchors and stuff like that. My dad would come home and be like, my instructor was Larry Connors. And I was like, that's so cool. He's the news guy from Channel 4. Or, my instructor was, Cat Michaels or somebody, from Hot 97. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So anyway, he would learn how to, all the radio stuff back in the day was so different because this was before mostly digital, where you had to, manually load carts, and, you had to know all the rules. You had to have all the, legal stuff, the legal ID. He learned it all at nights. He had to do all this paper, this classwork, this, paperwork and stuff. Anyway, he gets a job. He had his first job out in Washington, Missouri, about an hour away. He did weekends out there for minimum wage, and that was kind of interesting. But he got his first big job working for the big oldies radio station in St. Louis. It was called Oldies 103.3. And so he worked in the promotions department, which means his job was to go out wherever they went in the community, and they did a lot of promotions. And most radio stations do. He would drive the van, out to the grocery stores where they would do food drives, or, if there was a concert, he would always go to the concert, like where you meet the DJs before the shows or whatever. They were giving out t-shirts. He was the guy. He would always be there with the on-air talent. And so I was in high school when he made this transition and got this job at Oldies 103.3. I was probably, I'm trying to think, it was probably most of my high school career. And a lot of times, if I didn't have anything going on, I would go with him to the promotions because you would get to go backstage at concerts. I mean, they weren't like great concerts. They're usually oldies, people. But I get to, and I would help him because my dad would be at these things and he would have to set up a portable tent. He would have to get out all these boxes of t-shirts and hats and, all the swag they would give away. And, I was a high school kid, so I could help them. And, so I would go to it, and we would do all these things. We go to Union Station and give out t-shirts before the Herman's Hermits would play. It's almost a lot of the concerts were like what you'd have for the Food Rocks concerts down at Epcot. So I would do that. But some of the fun stuff I mentioned what he got to do over at Wild Country. He got to DJ, so I got to see him on TV on Saturday nights. But the better one was another show that he was on Saturday nights. Now this was after he was a radio DJ. So after he worked in promotions a while, he got the job also as the program director for a while of this radio station. He worked his way up and he became the PD for a while, but he was also an on-air DJ at 103.3. He did weekends, he did nights, and he actually did the morning show for a brief period. And so they had this show. It was like right when American Idol was like in its heyday. And so, it was like when Kelly Clarkson was, popular. It was like, everything was American Idol. And so they had a show that taped from a casino here in St. Louis, right on the Missouri River, here in St. Charles, actually. And it was exactly like American Idol, but it was St. Louis Idol. And I mean, people would line up. These St. Louis people would line up, and it was always the same people almost every week that would try out for the show. Because they gave out like the winning person each week, I think got like a weekend at the hotel. Like you got, a suite and you got like, your meals at the hotel restaurant. You got a gift card for a couple places around St. Charles. It wasn't like you won $1,000,000, but every week, like the winner would get like a, weekend at the hotel and, the casino. So my dad so they would have 3 judges, to rate these singers. And so it was put on by this conglomeration of radio stations. So they would have my dad would represent the oldies radio station because I guess nobody else wanted to do it. And my dad loved being on TV. He's like me. He's a ham. So my dad would always do the 103. He'd be the 103 oldies dude. They would always have a guy from the rap station that the radio group had. There was a urban rap station. And so they'd have like, the rap guy that had the chains. He would represent the rap station. And then they would have the guy from the country station, right? That would, have his cowboy hat on. And these people would get up and sing, and you could sing whatever song you wanted. It was just kind of like ultimate karaoke. And I mean, some of these people were terrible. Some of these people were awesome. And, sometimes they would try to rap, or sometimes they would do a country song, or they would do an AC, an adult contemporary song, or a standard or a classic. And it was just so funny to see my dad, because he's my dad, right? My dad's a Baptist. He's a deacon at the church. My dad he does not cuss. My dad is not mean. He does not drink any alcohol. My dad is as straight-laced as they come. And so, these people sing, and I mean, some of these people are terrible. I mean, terrible. And you had to give them a score from 1 to 10. And God bless my dad. He would give people, like 8s because he didn't want to hurt their feelings. And I'm like, oh, I would call him the next day after church because I never, he did it again. This recorded on Wednesday or Thursday nights, and it aired on Saturday nights after the news. And so I would call him on Sundays, or like we'd meet up after church or whatever. And I'd be like, what are you doing? Like that person, I mean, I can't sing a lick, but I'm like, that person couldn't carry a tune with a bucket. I mean, there's no way. Like, how did they get on the stage? Well, he is my dad. Well, it took courage to get up there, right? I mean, and they tried, and they gave an effort. I'm like, yeah, but they're 48 years old. Like somebody needs to tell them the truth. Like they think they're good, and they're not. And the good news is that the rap guy and the country guy or lady, a lot of times it was a lady, would usually destroy them. Like 2, 1, give them because it averaged out, right? So my dad was down there giving out candy with these scores all the time because he didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But these other people would keep it real. They'd be, because like they'd be like, yeah, we gotta keep this real. You're two. Like you just killed everybody in St. Louis on a Saturday night. I hope everybody's speakers are still intact. It was awesome. But it was wild to see, because this was my dad who I played catch with in the backyard. And, we went to church together, this is my dad who I woke up to and talked to every day in my house. And, he's the one who, with the podcast, helped me get this all started. But in high school, it was wild because your friends would just come across this show because, your friends would be getting home from whatever you were doing on a Saturday night. And Channel 4 was kind of the channel that everybody watched the news, Channel 4, Channel 5. And so everybody would be like, yeah, I saw your dad on St. Louis Sings or whatever. I can't remember what it was called. And, yep, giving out scores like candy again. He needs to be meaner. I'm like, I know, you don't have to tell me. But it was one of those things that I look back at it, that's probably like 1991 at this point. And it was a wild time. I don't know if any of you have had your parents on the radio or on TV. And my dad wasn't a star or anything. He was just kind of a average DJ on the radio who got to do some of these little TV shows. But it was really wild to be a high school kid where your friends be like, yeah, saw your dad. And he was, and he was in that, it was supposed to be like a Simon, a Randy, and a Paula, kind of like American Idol kind of thing, but it wasn't always that because my dad didn't watch American Idol. That's the thing I tell him, like, watch American Idol so like what you're supposed to be emulating. He's like, I don't have time for that. And so anyway, that's how he works for the Rams now because the Rams radio was on 103.3. And so he ended up being the engineer because he knew how to run all the wires and the cables and he knew how to run the board. So he did that, and he's still running the radio for the Rams to this day. And that was in the early 90s, and he's still doing it for the Los Angeles Rams here in 2022. So it's kind of a wild story. And there's many stories, and we've gone too long here, but I'll have to share some of those as we go down the line. But I wanted to give you the full story that I couldn't get to on the podcast of when my dad was dishing out 8s, 9s, and 10s on St. Louis Sings on Channel 4s on Saturday nights, like they were candy. And how awkward that is for a high school kid to watch your dad on TV, play Randy on American Idol for all your friends and everybody in your town and everybody in the whole metro area to see and to comment on. It was wild. But here's the thing. Do you have an experience like that with your parents or a sibling or anybody like that? Has anybody in your family worked in media? But again, also tell me about your town's celebration, your town's civic pride moment, like we had with our Francis Hall Vikings winning state this past weekend. What is it like for you? I want to share that feedback on next week's show. So I hope you're having a great holiday season. And as always, I thank you so much for supporting our show. You let us do the Be Our Guest podcast. We love doing the shows, and I hope you always enjoy listening to them. And you know that you have a friend in your ears because we're friends. And I can't wait to see everybody down at Marathon Weekend. So train hard, train safely, and everybody else stay safe. Enjoy your friends, enjoy your family. Know that I appreciate you so very much. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.